This is Port Ellen, where the Calmac ferries come in from the mainland in the morning. Port Ellen was founded in 1821 by Walter Frederick Campbell and named after his wife Eleanor, but it got shortened to Ellen after a while. There are 3 bays in Port Ellen. This is the third of the bays, and I'm standing in the community garden here. The other way is where the ferry comes in, and the further one is where the Maltings is. And these bays are sheltered by the land called the O. These community gardens are a very attractive place to be on a nice summer's evening. They were made in 1986, commissioned by various councils, and as I said, a very pleasant, attractive place to be. When we look at the map at the little harbour, we can see that actually it's one big bay, but when you're walking along it, gives the impression that it's more because of these jetties going out into the water. It's like dividing it up, but certainly doesn't look it here. We're looking across this little bay to the Port Ellen Distillery. This was founded 200 years ago, but it closed in 1983. However, plans are afoot to reopen it in 2023. But the building next to it, the big grey industrial building with the smoke coming out of the chimney, is the Maltings, and this supplies all the distilleries on the island. We are at the start of the Three Distilleries footpath. It's pretty amazing to think there are 3 distilleries within walking distance of each other, and really good to have a footpath to walk there instead of along the narrow road. We're going as far as Laphroaig Distillery and then cutting up by the old excise house to Kilbride Farm. This stone wall is unusual because the big stones are vertical as opposed to horizontal, which is the more usual way of doing it. We've just come to this little sandy bay where the sheep are munching quietly. In fact, everything's so quiet and still. We're at Laphroaig Distillery, the first one along the path. It's been so interesting coming along. First of all, there were like 3 enormous dark green barns without a window and any sign at all to say what they were. And the path took you past those and through some woods. And then we come to this beautiful building here, as it was built, I guess, 200 years ago. Inside, there is the whisky to taste and to find out all about it. And outside, this beautiful little bay with the swallows all around us going in and out of the barns. And the rain is about all the time, and that's part of why it's such a good place, apparently, to distill whisky on this island, because they get plenty of rain. We've come back along the footpath from Laphroaig Distillery, and we've turned by the prominent old excise house, walking up the road now to Kilbride, past really good agricultural land, which was so important for the whisky distilling and the farming industry around here, because the climate is ideally suited, as we found out today. Sun and rain all together. This is the first of the ancient standing stones, though it doesn't look as if it's going to be standing up much longer, but it's been here an awfully long time. Nobody quite knows why, but it's still here. Now we can see the extent of the warehouses for Laphroaig, and then beyond the trees is the little bay and the old, well, they're still being used, but the original buildings of the distillery, the old whitewashed buildings. We've been walking around the road from the last standing stone, and here is a really impressive standing stone coming into view. This stone is a huge lump of the local grey schist, just over 4 metres high. We can't get right up to it because the gate's all roped up, but anyway we can see it well, and as I said, nobody quite knows what they're for. One theory is a route marker, but it's felt these are rather too big for that, or it could be lining up with other stones, or with particular dates in the calendar, midsummer solstice or midwinter. But whatever, it's been here for a very long time, still standing. We've come to the second of the whisky distilleries along the way from Port Ellen to, as the name says, Lagavulin. The rather beautiful pagoda towers, elegant structures on the top, are actually there for a practical purpose because apparently they help with the distilling of the whisky. And Lagavulin, like Laphroaig, is situated in a picturesque bay, but unlike Laphroaig, it has its own ruined castle. There is an unbroken tradition of legal distilling stretching back to the 18th century in Islay. The earliest record is of Bowmore Distillery in 1779. And Lagavulin was a very early distillery, though the records of the early years are sparse. The possibility of raising revenue for the state from the consumption of whisky were realised by Oliver Cromwell, who imposed an excise tax of 2d a gallon. However, it was not until the 18th century that closer control of production was sought, and it wasn't until 1817, when a modest tax on output was substituted for the previous repressive tax on capacity, that the illicit stills started to disappear, though they continued in a small way. Lagavulin has the most interesting setting, with an important and picturesque castle right on its doorstep. Laphroaig Castle was an important stronghold of the medieval lords of the Isles. The crumbling stone keep dates from the 17th century, and there is a medieval ruinous curtain wall. And the castle was here because of the excellent anchorage of Lagavulin Bay, where the lords of the Isles could keep their naval force safe from the elements and out of sight of potential enemies. We've come past Lagavulin Distillery, past Ardbeg Distillery, the last of the three distilleries along the coast road here, and then along a narrow little road to Kildalton, ruined chapel and the ancient Celtic cross. This is the old Kildalton cross, early 9th century, and carved intricately from the local stone, which has made it particularly durable. And it's thought that with the quality of carvings on it, that the same stonemason who did the Iona crosses did this one. There's biblical scenes on this cross, which could have been used as like a visual aid by the local preacher. It's not too clear really what they are, but we are told that David is slaying the lion at the top. In the middle is the Virgin and Child, flanked by angels. Abraham sacrificing Isaac and Cain killing Abel. And round the other side are some lions and a symbol of the Trinity, 3 little eggs in a bird's nest. This medieval chapel was built in the 12th, 13th century under the patronage of the Lord of the Isles. And some of the walls are at the height that they would have been, and they're dressed with red sandstone. Oh, and there's the effigy, if you want to know what the Lords of the Isles look like, right up here. This cross and little chapel are in such a beautiful setting. When the wind blows, the sound through the trees is lovely, and meanwhile all around you've got the mountains, the sea not far away, the birds singing, and beauty. We've come east from Port Ellen as far as we can go to the Bay of Claggan, which is famed for its beautifully coloured pebbles. And on this marvellous afternoon, it's a very beautiful spot to be. We're looking across to the Kintyre Peninsula with the mountains of Arran in the distance.